What are you doing this morning? What are you thinking?
Well, putting some money to work, selling some oils, which we were fortunate to have, so selling big oil, and then buying some of the stocks that have good yields or valuations that are much lower than the market that grow faster.
Hey guys, welcome to Money Me. If you're watching this in the replay, I greatly appreciate it. Give me a thumbs up. We went a little bit early here, about 10 minutes, but we're watching the market. We're going to talk about a couple things today. Price of gas. Obviously, if you're following the news, and it's even if some people say they're not watching the news, it's all over Facebook, all over Twitter, as we know that Russia has invaded Ukraine. And the market is looking to be down about 800 points. Now, you guys are saying, well, how am I? I'm streaming a little bit of CNBC, and I'm going to kind of bounce back and forth between some of the news stations and kind of talk about things. I guess from what I understand, fair use, and as long as you're sort of doing reaction videos and doing clips of it, you're allowed to. So at the end of the day, I don't care. My channel's not monetized, so there's no risk. I'm not losing nothing. I do this because I like talking about the market, and been trading the market 20 years. And full disclosure, I am not a licensed broker or analyst, and just a regular Joe here, trading stocks, and been a landlord, been a business owner, and the market has really, just when you think you've seen it all, really has taught me some lessons the last couple months, and it's been not good lessons. It's been brutal. And I am going to do a series of videos over the course of the next week or two, kind of talking about some of that, and really a couple people that I took some advice from indirectly. They didn't talk to me, doing who do YouTube and have big channels and stuff like that, lost some money. Like,
the oil that doesn't come from Russia, come to Russian West, will go to China. I mean, I wonder at a certain point if they continue to act up, that the Chinese don't just say, okay, listen, we won, let's stop. So, I've listened to a lot.
And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the, I wouldn't be surprised if every Dow stock, except for maybe defense and oil, will be down today. And
Monday come in, maybe they won. I mean, Ukraine does not have a lot of divisions, as much as we like them.
Jim, we're going to see you in a couple minutes. Looking forward to it. Squawk returns after this.
Yeah, the Nasdaq's so far pre-market. The Dow is down right now. The Dow is down like 9-10%. And let me share. And like I said, I'll be bouncing back and forth. I don't want to show no commercials that the TV is showing. I don't want that to be an issue and stuff like that. So I'm going to pull up my Weeble desktop, but there's going to be a lot of red today. This is pre-market. Things are not good. I did a video on Fubu the other day, and that stock, even though they beat and they did better than expected, they're supposed to do $1 billion this year. That stock is down even more. eBay is down. I mean, everything's down. Everything is down. So we're gonna go through the list, and I mean, look at Amazon. We're in some dark. And I if you listen back to some of my videos where I talked about it, I think we're going to 30% correction this year, with at least finish the year down 15%. I think the highs have been set since November of 2021. I wish I would have listened to my own gut and got out of stuff. But honestly, I thought we'd get. We never. Some of these stocks we never got any type of bounce. Hey, Craig, how you doing? Good morning. So as you know, Craig, the Ukraine news ain't looking too good here. So I'm sharing that screen. Yeah. Share screen. Hold on. there's a way I can share a screen and not have to lose the yes, right there. So yeah, brutal day is going to happen today in the market, and I am here. We're coming back to the market. Oh, extra camera. Oh, wow. That's a new thing. I'm using StreamYard in case you guys are watching. There's a new thing, an extra camera. So you can click on extra camera and
now, we know that Congress has already begun discussing the possibility of an emergency spending package to deal with this crisis. The contours still evolving. The Democrats said the White House has already suggested $1 billion would be needed over the next year just for humanitarian aid. There also could be money to provide weapons to Ukraine for things like Stingers, Javelins, drones, anti-ship missiles, as well as to harden its cybersecurity.
We went a couple minutes early here.
Talked about funding to the Defense Department
just to kind of get it out there if people want to watch.
Congress
some people, honestly, when this stuff is going on, they just kind of choose to ignore the money issues, and I think that's a mistake.
Top administration officials on the situation in Ukraine later today. Back to you.
Elon, thank you. Joining us right now for more is Michael O'Hanlon. He is a Brookings Institution Senior Fellow in Foreign Policy. And Michael, listening to the list of ideas coming out of Congress right now seems like too little, too late in terms of trying to think of spending on defense at this point.
Hi, Becky. Yeah, a very sad day. And of course, at this point, we're going to see, I believe, the United States and the West realize that we have to respond even more severely than we originally anticipated, which means, unfortunately, our deterrent wasn't quite as strong.
If I was anybody right now, I wouldn't put any big money. If you're doing a 401k in an IRA, if you're worried about, you still can do it. What you can do is, and I might do that myself for 2 accounts that I oversee, is just change instead of going into the stock side, change it into the money market side until things calm down. This way you still get the contribution from the employer, but you're not kind of chasing stocks a little bit that are going down. I know some people say, oh, you're going to get a better deal because but until things kind of level out here, we could be in for a big mess.
That this wouldn't happen, that Putin would see the logic that it would be too painful to deal with these sanctions.
We're already being hit with wage inflation, oil inflation, which is driving the price of everything up. Every time you go out to buy something, you go out to grocery shop, and the price of everything is going up. And unfortunately, a lot of the countries enjoy this $100. Now it's up 8%, and at 8%,
I advocated that and thought we should have done more to try to.
I mean, that's gonna. And we got people talking $6-7 in gas. I wouldn't say that.
Altogether.
Hey, Arthur Leslie, how you doing? Thanks for coming by. I appreciate it.
Contribute to supporting, but obviously that didn't happen, and perhaps it was never.
Thank you for coming by.
In the first place. So today's a day to unite against Putin, and it just turns out the guy cares more about
what a mess, Arthur.
Legacy and restoring this idea.
I know days like this. I mean, and I'm not going to focus on it for 8 hours today, but I am. I made a decision last night, and I did sell some stocks already pre-market today.
Correctly identified.
Because I wanted to
even do things like take them off the
I had too many shares of certain companies, and I just know with the market the way that it's acting.
Is he just playing us, knowing that
now I am looking at a stock to make a trade
I think that's
that
part of
I
it,
think
but he also
could do okay, but
that he cares more about Russian honor, pride, and the historical role he could have in restoring what he sees as the right.
I mean, look at Arthur and
he cares about building a function.
Yeah, exactly, Arthur. You got it. And if if you're on margin, don't be on margin. Get off of margin, because that's what's killing a lot of. That's kind of happened to me. You get that pressure of margin is good when your leverage going up, but when it's going down the opposite way, no good.
Even though the sanctions we've
you got what's happening since November. You got
ups and downs in
2 years worth of
his GDP growth is
profits just being wiped out.
Probably going to be negative for 10 years. So he just showed us what he cares about more. And unfortunately, it's an old-fashioned style of military conquest.
I'm not sure. I haven't heard anything, but Russian stock market, I think,
Michael,
was
thank you
down
for your
like
time today.
40%.
We should take a quick final
could you
look at the
imagine
markets
those
before we
people?
can hand things over to Squawk
How
on the
they must
Street.
feel
The
when their
futures this
leaders
morning
doing
under
some of this
some pretty
stuff,
severe
and
pressure. Dow futures right
the
now down by
rubles
773
basically,
points.
I mean,
S&P
wiping
futures
that
down
out,
by
and
100 points. The NASDAQ
but what are they
off
going
by
to do?
390, and this comes after 4 to 5 days of gains for each of these major averages. The 10-year note at this point, yield has been under pressure as well, as this is seen as a flight to safety. You're going to see right now that the 10-year is yielding 1.870%.
And I don't think we
Obviously,
really
this raises a
get
lot of
we
questions
might.
about what will come next from the
I
Federal
don't think we
Reserve.
get
How
really
do we
any
manage
bounce
inflation and
because
higher commodity
who's going to
prices
want
that
to
we're
own
seeing as a result
stocks
of all of
going
this
in
as
over the
well?
weekend?
We're going to
You never
continue
know
to
what's
watch
going to
this for
happen
you
if
every
it
tick of the
gets
day.
rougher
Hand
and
things over in just a
more
moment
things
to Squawk
happen.
on the Street. Three of us will be back here tomorrow morning to pick things
We're
up.
we're
Meantime,
facing
make sure you
something
stay tuned
that
to
we
CNBC.
haven't.
Right now it's time for Squawk on the Street.
We go into the Middle East, and it's always been a terrorist, but never really see a country invade another country that I can remember since the early 90s when Iraq invaded Kuwait. And this is guys, this is not political. It's not about who's in the office and stuff. This is about money, and this is why I'm doing this, because this is having a worldwide impact on the price of gas, which is going to affect the price of food, and the market worldwide is going to take a beating. So about a half an hour away from the market opening.
Across the country, and President Biden calling the attacks unprovoked and unjustified. He will meet with G7 counterparts this morning before addressing the American people.
And you're watching this with me at the same time I'm watching. I'm not sure if you get CNBC where you're at.
Any signs of commodity disruption?
Right. I do believe that we are down as much as Europe, which is
drives me nuts though to see gas
Europe's
going up,
in terms of
which helps a country like Russia, because that's like their biggest exporter. I mean, they bring a lot of cash in from oil. If you want to hurt their economy, crash the price of oil. But I mean, look at that.
At the same time, I recognize that we have thought about this every day. I don't think President Biden could have prepared us more for how this was going to happen. There were daily reports this was going to happen. So now the market's reacting like it's a shock, and that means you got to go against the market, because the market's
no, Arthur. No.
Okay, so you believe this
No.
We don't want to make that a
No.
humanitarian crisis that is unfolding.
A lot of things also affect, and again, I'm not a licensed broker, but I think depending upon your age, and I assume that you're over 50, as you get older, you can't take as much risk because you have less time to bounce back. And we're going to have a mess this year, and anything that people do get in are just going to be trading. If I can get into a stock and I know I can make 10 or 15% in the next month or two, but you got to really be picky on the companies. I mean, perfect example is, look at Tesla. Everybody loves Tesla. Tesla was at 1,300 in November. It is now it hit under 700, and probably will hit 600.
Perhaps clearer that this was a very significant possibility.
Right.
And so,
there's just so much, the problem is there's so much instability. Who knows where things going to go? And it all depends what your position is. I mean, you're worth $1 million and you want to throw $5,000 in to do a trade. That's a different story. But if you only have $5,000 and you might need that money in 3 months, no. That's why it's more of an individual, type situation that, and this is just me and you chatting right now,
and how they're ruling that decision.
This is not I don't think the same advice works for the same. It all depends your age and what's going on and where you're at in life and what your goal is. And
I think, Carl, one of the things that we got to recognize is that
I remember I helped a guy he turned talked him into putting 25,000 in March 20th, April 20th. Disney, Kohl's, and Viacom, and at one time it was worth 60,000. He has a garage and a bar, but I don't know if he ever sold because he's so stubborn, and that people become greedy.
$30-$40, it's worth it for them to drill, even though that they've held back. So I do think the oils should be scaled out of. I think that if you want to buy yield, and I do that, I really feel at these prices. If stocks that have yield and a flight to quality treasuries make a lot of sense to me. You'll notice that a bunch of them aren't even down. Anything that is drug and therefore not related to the recession that this market is predicting, I think is very attractive today. I even think that you can go buy the Proctors. Proctor, if it reaches 150, you buy it.
Well, with that being said, Arthur, I think there's going to be better opportunities for price.
But you have to buy the stocks.
And
moves anyway. Yeah. Well, you buy drugs, you buy consumer packaged goods stocks.
Right now, you'd be better off.
Currency effects.
I think there's going to be better prices. Also, not getting really too much into individual stocks, just because you'd be probably better off having a balanced mutual fund. But who wants to buy something now? Let's say $10,000 to see it be worth $8,500 2-3 months from now. So that's the situation there. Now, all of a sudden, one day you get, let's say, a 2,000 point drop, and let's say Disney is at 140 and it goes to 115. That's an opportunity to step in and maybe buy at 115, and over the next month it bounces back to 130, 140, and you say that's a trade though. That's not really like an investment. That's more of a trade. Those opportunities do exist, but you got to even then be so picky. And I used to do my son's account, and I still do, and I've learned from mistakes I've made the last 5 months that I doubled his money in 3 years, and I've given back 50% of that profit in the past 4 months. And listening to other people on YouTube and Twitter and not really understanding why they put, there are people out there that push stocks and they never, they get in and they get out, but they don't really, they talk more about when they're in it, but they talk a lot less when they're out of it.
Create a $180 billion rainy day fund, fourth biggest foreign currency reserves in the world, to stop now.
Okay, because that is the World War III option. You can't go against NATO. I mean, NATO does have troops. We do have divisions. Now, we don't have a lot of, most of the divisions they're battalion size, right? They're not divisions. But I do believe that if you try to take on the West, on NATO will act. And that is World War III. Now, I've seen a number of things today talking about how this is the biggest incursion by Russia. But what they don't understand is not the size.
We've seen the high of the market last year. So there's
Hungary should have been World War III.
And I feel 95% confident that
World War III will be decided to sacrifice Czechoslovakia.
And, you had so much money, and again, I'm going to do more videos on that. You had so much money being pumped in from the stimulus and the people staying home, and people not out gambling, people, just a lot of money. Honestly, a younger, new even generation, and really pushing up stocks. And now we're seeing what's happening.
We're neutral countries.
Basically 18 months, 22 months of stocks just going up. I mean, 100%, 200%, and it's being lost in those gains are being wiped out in like 4 months.
Right, well, because it's never been allowed. Why has it not been allowed?
The stock market pretty much peaked November
10th.
10th.
It's got a government that is what?
I feel like you're quoting Putin's speech from the other day.
No. Well, I'm just saying, why didn't they allow it?
Listen, the question is, right now, by the way, credit markets are fine. We obviously see the impact in the stock market at this point. We're keeping an eye on energy because that
the
is
market
the
or the Ukraine-Russian mess, Arthur.
You do not seem to be. Then the other real threat is,
I mean, it's hard now once Putin did what he did.
And you do not.
I don't think he's going to back off. And
even China would not accept the wider conflict. You can't be a nation alone as rich as Russia.
We're gonna have a mess.
The West does have a backbone at a certain point. Now, the West is well aware.
The market, yeah, I think the market's going to be. I think ultimately we could see the market down 30%.
And they move.
So the market's down like, in other words, it's at 32. Let me see, 32,000. I wouldn't be surprised at one point to see, because you got a lot of small stocks, honestly, that are down 50, 70, 80%, and the market looks better than it really is when there's a lot of underlying stocks. Even like, mid-sized, PayPal. I mean, PayPal's from 300 to, but there's just a lot of, I think there's a lot of, Microsoft starts dropping and Apple starts dropping, and, basically there's people, the big money's not really buying, and and then you'll even get the, the small guys, and people who still do their 401ks, that kind of don't worry about it and don't even pay attention to it. They'll be fine. That person that's putting in that $100 a month will be some liquidity, but they're going to be bigger stocks. But there's still a lot of stocks that have had nice runs that haven't really corrected. I mean, the S&P now is in correction, which a correction is anything plus 10%, and the NASDAQ is down, I think, 15 or 17%. And the Dow, this is pre-market open, is down like 9%. And these are all rough numbers, give or take a percent. But I think overall this market's definitely going to be down this year, and I think it's going to be down 15%. Right, we could be down 37%, and then it bounces a little bit and stuff like that. But
for the Americans,
no, I wouldn't add any. Until not that long. Keep cash. Cash is good sometimes. For whatever reason, always cash allows you to take advantages of opportunities. That's one thing you don't see, like Warren Buffett. Crazy. He stays steadfast.
Let's get to Kayla Tausche this morning. Find out more about what we might hear from the president today. Good morning, Kayla.
Good morning, Carl. What you guys are discussing, the news that we saw.
There's a lot of things that people don't understand, even with, stocks with, as far as cash flow and debt and things like that. You can look at you'll have people look at a company and, it's $10 and another company's $10, and they'll say that they're equal. Well, if one company has no debt and lots of growth, but the other company, has, mediocre grgrowth and lots of debt, they're not on the same page. That's why I think Amazon was so misunderstood, because I mean, look at Amazon when it crashed back in 2000. What did it go from, like 100 to 5? Well, obviously, Amazon. But look at people that got into Webvan and didn't do good with it.
Meeting with G7 leaders virtually this morning, that meeting was scheduled to take place at 9 a.m. Eastern time. Meanwhile, uncertainty is spreading.
So there are opportunities, but there's also risk. And, I think people work too hard, the regular guy, to just be, wasting or losing money.
Nationals there withdrawing money from ATMs in Donetsk, one of the breakaway regions that Russian troops first claimed. Now, as Ukrainians flee the country, the UN Refugee Agency calling on neighboring.
The sad part about all this is,
open to
we don't want to lose money. It's just to see the innocent people
it's prepared to do so,
that potentially could be killed.
Poland's defense minister said just last week. And yesterday, I asked the White House press secretary just how much financial assistance for Ukraine the president will seek. Jen Psaki told me, and of course this was pre-invasion, that it was unclear just how steep the need would be. Carl?
Kayla, thank you for that. We'll come back to you a lot.
When the market opens, I'm going to go through some stocks that are really going.
The prospect of further sanctions.
I'll highlight some popular stocks.
Here's what he said.
We still have about 15 minutes till the market opens.
The market the last couple of days appears to be relatively resilient in the context of this news, but I would highlight that it's early. Sanctions, I think, can be an effective tool to contributing to influence or behavior change over time. And so we're watching this very closely, and our clients are watching it very closely. And we'll have to see how this all unfolds.
You did see big action in European banks this morning.
Right, but remember, this is a controlled economy run by a dictator who is not up for election, so to speak. And I do believe that in the end, Europe is hurt more than us. Now, if we're down 4 to 5%, then David, what that says is we are Europe. We don't have much natural gas. Our banks are in trouble.
Well, it's an initial reaction, Jim.
Well,
So, yeah.
Okay,
So,
okay, well, that's right.
Yeah.
Which is why I'm saying, don't panic.
Right.
Look for things that have a higher yield, that do well in a recession, that don't have supply chain problems.
I understood.
Right? This is not the time to buy Allbirds
No.
or Weber grills.
Maybe not Peloton either.
No, I disagree with that.
I know you do. We'll talk about that later. But it is a time to buy, free cash flow that may be undervalued. Maybe it's time to buy Google. You mentioned to me a couple times this morning, 20 times earnings.
Okay, so
20 times earnings.
my
I mean,
Chapel
does this
Trust-
really impact the ability of Google to sell search? Probably not.
We had a meeting this morning. We actually did 3 bulletins this morning. We had a meeting this morning talking with CMC about what to recommend of tab. And that was going to be our idea, was that you buy Google because you buy a company that grows dramatically, will buy no supply chain problems and sells at a discounted market multiple.
But Jim, those who would look back to Crimea in 2014 and try to understand what the market reaction was then, how long it lasted, and sort of overlay that on the current situation, is that a fair representation or is that a mistake?
Well, Crimea was always considered to be Russian, and
but it was also quick, and there was very limited reaction,
in the
stock market that lasted only a handful of days.
We justified it as something what was always Russian. I mean, it wasn't Russian until we said it was always Russian. Look, they put in. Let's say that the president flees Ukraine.
Actually, my son actually works for General Dynamics. So
the Russians,
obviously defense, but
government. I mean, they could put it in a public government.
Has the move already been made? General Dynamics is up. I think let's pull up the Webull.
We basically said, here's what we're going to do.
I mean, look,
5 banks right now. We're doing
General Dynamics is up 2.23%.
We're going after wealthy oligarchs.
Let's stop that one, and we'll add.
We are talking about not taking their energy. They have markets to sell. The leverage here is nil.
Yeah, General Dynamics, it makes the Abrams. They make airplanes and tanks and stuff like that, but basically it's almost at an all-time high. Another $5. Obviously they just got Poland just ordered 200. Let me see what the price times earning in. But again, it's one of those situations that, and I hate that what drives me nuts about analysts, and I've seen it happen with tech stocks, with Roku and all these others. How many people were saying buy Roku at 400? How many people were saying buy Tesla at 1,000? And these stocks are down big. So I never want to be that guy that says, oh, okay, yeah, this is.
But Nikesh Arora, when he was on Mad Money earlier this week, laid it out. You can stop these attacks. They're not as brilliant as you think.
We're going to watch that. Obviously,
yeah. Of course, the politicians always have a good paycheck coming in.
To get to Discovery, Moderna, Baba, Tesla, Lemonade, and more when we come back.
I mean, Tesla is taking a beating. I mean, look at Tesla. $1,243 back in November. Now $713. That's a big. What about all those people? And yet, split adjusted, you could have got it back in 2020. People are still ahead. I mean, obviously in 2020, you could have got it for $70. You would have had 10 times your money. But I mean, you basically had Elon Musk worth $200 billion at the peak. Now with the stock being down, 40%? That's $80 billion. And he just paid the biggest tax bill ever. As you know, I did a video on Ollie's, and I like it. I've said it could go down in the 30s. And
March 30th.
We'll see where this goes. If this is just, them kind of pushing around people, and nobody really stands. Things are a lot different though with war now because of Twitter, because of social media, because of now you go on TikTok, you go on Instagram, you go on Facebook, you go on Twitter, and people pull out their cell phones and you see what's going on. So there's instant information, but it could be good or bad, and you think that you're getting the full picture of the story. I mean, I was watching the news last night. A guy was in the Ukraine, and he was all the way on the West Coast, but he was sort of like telling his story like he was on the East Coast, and he was nowhere near the the fighting and stuff like that. So it sort of was like, come on. So let's see what let's see what CNN is saying.
Of risk and reward, and helping you plan for
They're on a commercial. Let's see what Fox. I have Sling TV here. Fox Business. Let's see what they're saying.
I think the actions that NATO is taking to ensure with Article 4 that they're taking defensive measures, because obviously any collateral damage could be absolutely catastrophic. And so that's the right action for NATO to take. But for Americans, we're not looking to put troops inside Ukraine. I wish we could rewind the clock, because I do believe that this was completely avoidable. This environment of weakness that President Biden has put us in has allowed leverage for Putin to do this invasion.
Well, there is some concern that Putin doesn't stop at Ukraine, that he threatens other East European countries as well. Shouldn't we now be sending a lot of troops into those countries to make sure that we've got some defense against an extended Russian attack?
Well, I think that's exactly why in the previous 4 to 5 weeks, you've seen NATO taking those actions to ensure that they are moving air power and ground troops into position in places like Poland. Obviously, you look at Bulgaria and other Baltic countries that are right there on the front lines, and they always have been. And this is why deterrence is so important. Deterrence does not happen after the fact. We've talked about energy security, and what Zelensky told us was, we could have avoided this situation had Nord Stream been shut down. Now that we're here, you are right, Stu. I mean, NATO does need to have a strong posture. We need President Biden to come out right now and issue strength, show strength by leadership, and strongly condemn, but also we need broad, sweeping sanctions that will absolutely cripple the Russian economy so that the price for invasion is extremely high and that they will feel it.
Well, we're not expecting to see the president until later on today, possibly this afternoon. And we're not expecting an announcement on sanctions until at least late morning. So at this moment, we're not seeing much from this administration as the invasion continues. Congressman, look, thanks very much for being with us and sharing your military expertise.
We lost the feed there a second. Didn't do that with CNBC, but
7 meeting that should be underway right now, if indeed they are on schedule. President Biden last night condemning this invasion by Russia as a, quote, unprovoked and unjustified attack by Russian military forces. And today, you can expect that President Biden will unveil the full range of severe sanctions that the U.S. has been preparing in the event of a large-scale Russian invasion of Ukraine. That is
scary, though, sometimes.
If indeed what they have previewed is to come.
The problem, I think people, though, in these countries aren't as much of a pushover as you basically got the citizens willing to even fight, not just soldiers.
Elites and their families, as well as export controls, which would cut Russia off from key technologies that are made in the United States and in Europe. And what you can really expect today is to see that these sanctions will be done in coordination with the U.S.'s closest allies. That has been, of course, the goal throughout this process, as the U.S. has been trying to prepare the world for the prospect and now the reality of this Russian invasion, to keep the West united in imposing these sanctions and in telegraphing to Russia what would happen if indeed it carried out this invasion. And we will hear from President Biden sometime early this afternoon, where he will, of course, continue to condemn these actions by Russia. And you can also expect to hear him lay out these sanctions and prepare the American public, as he has tried to do in recent weeks, for the possibility of some repercussions here at home as it relates to gas prices, as it relates to food prices, and more. Jim?
Well, the sanctions initially were meant to deter. They clearly have not deterred. I suppose they are now in the category purely of punitive sanctions, and we'll see what they are. Jeremy Diamond, thanks very much. So let's speak now to someone who knows the Russian threat well, former NATO Supreme Allied Commander, retired General Wesley Clark. General Clark, it's great to have you here. You commanded NATO in what was a different time. Russia was never not a threat, but they were certainly less hostile relations between NATO and Russia. Russia has now opened a war on a peaceful Ukraine and threatened, it seems, or at least described.
We still have about 6 minutes till the market opens. When the market opens, I'll go over there and start featuring some individual stocks. So I appreciate a couple people that we got in here.
NATO commander, we did run a major operation in Kosovo to stop Serb ethnic cleansing that was backed by Russia. And the Russians ran a special op to try to disrupt NATO. So there was, even then, no question what was going on. Putin made it clear from the time he became prime minister in late 1999 that he wanted to restore the Soviet Union. He's tried many ways to do it. He's been frustrated. He can't go against democracy and freedom, so he's going to use military force.
I sure hope he never tries to give us a hard time about Alaska.
Look, this is an international war crime, and the world should come down on Putin, not just with financial sanctions, but with legal actions. All of his assets seized, his family deported from the West, and he is an international criminal. Now, we're going to have to do more than financial sanctions. I think that's clear. That is punitive, as you said. What's happening right now is the first of the first 24 hours of airstrikes to knock out Ukraine's air defenses and assure that the Russians have air supremacy. They've penetrated under the cover of darkness, seized some airfields. I see the pictures of the attack helicopters in the area. So they're inside the defense perimeter that we would like to see Kyiv establish around its capital and around the borders. But the fight's not over. So this fight's going to involve heavy fighting among ground forces against Russians penetrating from multiple directions.
I wonder how the Russian people feel about all this.
Of the attack,
the regular.
So this is a little hard for us to get a grip on.
That's where I like to see people whip out their phone and kind of talk about. Or are they so supportive of their leader that they,
supported by air, and of course their attempt is to force regime change in Kyiv. They'll go after President Zelensky. They'll try to assassinate him. They'll try to push him out. Meanwhile, they will occupy as much of Ukraine as necessary.
Market's going to be open in 3 minutes.
Put their own people in, and then move down their hit list to eliminate those people who they believe would be a threat to their continued domination. We can't believe anything that Putin says about not occupying Ukraine or whatever. That's just said to confuse people. What we do want to see, what we hopefully will see, is strong resistance by the Ukrainian forces as
that's his phone, not mine.
As the Russians approach the urban areas, this will be decisive in this battle.
Yeah, General Clark, the only thing we can believe is what we're seeing on the ground there. And what we're seeing is a multi-front assault and invasion from the north, from the east, from the south. I'm curious, in your opinion, as we've been calculating up until this date, this moment, is this the worst case scenario? And how much longer do you envision this attack going on?
Well, it will go on until they accomplish their objectives, essentially. He's not going to stop with financial sanctions. Now, what I'm hearing behind the scenes is that a coalition of the willing is being put together, nations who want to help sustain Ukraine in this fight. They're going to have to bring in the heavy material that's required. At least right now, this is not like Afghanistan. It's not an insurgency. You can't win it by sending small arms in and some Stinger missiles and javelins. This is going to require artillery, projectiles, powder, fuel, spares, replenishment. This is a major warfare that's going to happen. Now, Putin will use only as much as is necessary to do this. So he's trying to avoid collateral damage in the early phases because that promotes these aren't barrages against to kill civilians. He's going after specific targets with precision strikes. But as this attack gets deeper into Kyiv, as the resistance builds from the Ukrainian side, of course, there'll be more and more civilian casualties and disruption. This is a real challenge for Zelensky's government to organize its defenses in these urban areas.
General Clark, let me ask you, though, you're describing...
We're about 1 minute. We're going to go over to CNBC and see how the market's going to open here. Obviously, we know it's going to open about 750, 800 points down. And it could amplify.
But the company is getting better. Now, I have Revolve on tonight. And you can say, well, that's which one is no brick and mortar fashion. Revolve actually really kind of interesting site. But this company is doing so much better. And the fact that it sells at 5 times earnings is a demonstration of multiple shrinking and opportunity beckoning.
Right. But in this case, there are earnings as well. I point that out because multiples have been shrinking for any number of companies. I mean, we are talking about a NASDAQ now that is going to be down when we start trading today, about 20%.
Well, I'm just saying.
Yeah, NASDAQ's going to be close down to 20%.
So we know the current state of play. And Jeff Gannett delivered a good quarter. He continues to make the balance sheet better. So, David, I'm not pounding the table Macy's. I'm saying this is the destruction that we're seeing.
Right.
And Macy's has nothing to do with Ukraine.
Not a thing.
Not one bit.
Let's get to the opening bell here in the CNBC real-time exchange. And the big board, it is Cohen and Steers celebrating.
Yeah, sometimes I wish they would, Arthur.
At the NASDAQ, its power of acquisition is SPAC, celebrating its recent IPO. As David said, we're going to be on watch to see.
Here we go.
Declare a bear market, at least on a closing basis. Would be the first since March of 2020. And if you're just joining us, the big news of the day is Russia launching war in Ukraine. We mentioned the air and ground attacks. Airports in Kyiv bombed. A lot of major roads have been jammed. Long lines at gas stations, gym, bus stations, pharmacies, and pictures of refugees, parents.
I wish I could dual share a screen because I have my chart.
We didn't really do anything. Well, I mean, we talked about it.
So the NASDAQ is down 430.
By saying that, you imply somehow that there was an expectation that the U.S. and our allies would actually get involved in a war with Russia.
Oil's up.
Which is a specious argument.
And they say when oil's up for every dollar,
We did not
4 cents. In other words, right now at $8, I think we'd go up around 30 cents in the next couple days per gallon.
Yeah. David, Facebook sells at 13 times earnings.
Okay, is that including or not including the investment they're going to continue to make in the metaverse? Because when you actually add that in, the multiple goes up a bit. But even then, it's still in the high teens.
Down 830 points, folks.
If you wanted to, if you were Butcher Block and you wanted to catch, but you're not. You're very
all right. So let's feature.
But if you were to want to catch a falling knife, you could do worse than catching the falling knife with Meta platform because
they're talking about Facebook.
May not be accompanied by a shrinkage in earnings. I am saying that Meta platforms, which is now doomed,
yes,
maybe by the third quarter, which I know is just a monstrous
190.
Higher than it is now.
It may be, and it is, as we see, it's down over 42% for the year. Obviously,
do you have an e-bike? Do you live in an area? You live in a rural area or like a inner city?
Spend an enormous amount on the metaverse. But Jim, it's funny. I asked that question to people.
You know, it's funny, Arthur. You follow me on my other channel too and stuff like that. It's so funny that, you know, if we're talking about selling a pair of pants from the Goodwill, you can get 30 people in there. Try to talk about the government and money and struggle to get 5. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of other big channels already talking about a lot of this stuff, and I'm just a little fish in the sea. Yeah, Tesla's down 38, 39.
Giant cash position. And you think that more
FUBU, man, that's killed me, that stock.
What do I do? The man is not
Vero.
a beast. So I know it's an odd stock to talk about on a day when it seems like the world's falling.
Honest down.
Certainly, it's not a surprise.
GCF.
Aside from Moderna, but Northrop.
Turbo share, yeah. Let's see, General Dynamics. See, General Dynamics is down.
Greater need for security.
Those are congressional things, and we're so scrapped as a country. I mean, look, the most daunting thing that I find is
General Dynamics is now down 46 cents. Let's see where Exxon's at. Exxon's up only like 98 cents.
I don't. And by the way, if you wanted to buy a safer one,
and yet it was higher.
Hold it, I would buy
yeah, the high today was 79.03. So you're getting people that are selling into the.
I have American Electric Power.
Oh, okay.
It's one that's doing well. I don't want to buy Lockheed Martin. It's been going up for days now. These things have been going up. But did people just wake up and realize, David, that holy cow, there's a war on? That we're not fighting?
Yeah, that may be the case. Not everybody's focused on.
What is this? 1990? This stuff collapsed after Desert Storm. I'm not going with that.
Mm-hmm.
Now I've compared this to Desert Storm, except for the bad guys would win. It could be. Look, if there is massive fighting, then that does not necessarily mean there won't be capitulation, because the Ukrainians don't have the divisions. I mean, look, Putin is throwing, like, he's not throwing what Zukov was throwing against Berlin, but I mean, he's got a lot of firepower, and you can't fight them. You can't fight tanks with guns. You can't. And I don't see, it's not tank for tank.
No, not by any stretch of the imagination. AXP, Visa, Boeing, a lot of cross-border travel, payment-related names leading the Dow lower this morning.
AXP is very interesting because Warren Buffett owns so much of the stock now, and the institute,
and you go back to some of these stocks. I mean, some of them are going to go back to 18-month
big institutions
levels from a year and a half ago.
Let it come in, but I'm interested in American Express. By Monday. Okay. What?
No, you've been talking about AXP for a while.
I've been loving it.
Yeah.
Because I think Steve.
So basically, Jim Cramer is saying don't buy anything until Monday or Tuesday, if anything. But he you know, obviously these guys are in positions that they can buy stuff if they have to hold it for a year or two. I just did make a trade. I got into PayPal. I sold a couple stocks this morning, and I got into PayPal, which I'll make a video about that probably later today or tomorrow.
Multiple collapse.
There's a view that expenses are greater than had been anticipated.
There are some stocks that are down 70% that I like.
Under
Do you
investing.
think that's not a very big story? We have not talked about.
I think that is an interesting story. I mean, yes, I do. And
if anybody in the chat wants me to pull up a certain stock, I can.
Colored the entire earnings period for all the banks.
Yes,
appreciate people that are here now.
You know what? Congratulations, Leslie Picker, for this beat, but who have said we wish JP Morgan hadn't gone first because they made everybody feel like this.
Yeah, gas is gonna if gas is up 8% today, so gas will go up about 35-40 cents.
This cycle of increased spending.
We got a big mess, folks. Don't throw any large amount of money into the market. If you're doing your 401k, your IRA, $100, $200 a month, don't worry about it.
We're getting closer and closer.
Like I told my son last night, he works for General Dynamics, actually. Even if the market goes down, he gets 100% match from the company. So, and he gets in General Dynamics stock, so you're not going to lose. If anything, you're going to gain some extra shares.
4.5 times as opposed to 5 times. Stock has been up nicely this year.
Okay.
And that's not the case this morning, though. Still
cool.
Up 10% for the year, but it is down, as you see, almost 8%. The numbers were pretty good. 10% revenue growth. EBITDA was up, I think, a bit more than
Bitcoin's down.
The company had anticipated.
I just started recently just buying a little bit of Bitcoin. Let me pull up some charts, folks. If you guys are ever interested in I usually put in the description the Webull link. You can sign up. You get like 2 free shares. Let me mute the CNBC a little bit or turn it down a little bit in the background, guys.
But remember, this is all going to change with the acquisition of HBO Max.
There we go. All right, let me share. Let me share the screen. I changed my background a little bit, and I'm doing a green screen today, so. Okay. Exxon, yeah, Exxon. Exxon's the only stock that I'm seeing up right now. Finwiz. I wonder if is that the. Let me see if Finwiz, I think it's called. Finwiz, is that? Yeah. the maps. Well, we get that delay, so we're not really, it's not updating yet. Usually what happens here, it'll show like what stocks and what percentage it takes up of technology. That's the thing, when I'm looking into stocks and doing different things, I try to, and I want to become a better, this is real money. So I followed, different trading view. Even them, I'll go on charts. eBay's taking a beating today. I mean, look at, and we can adjust this to a time chart. In other words, we can adjust it to 5 minutes. What'll happen though, eventually an ad will pop up here saying you should subscribe, but you can see this is a 5-minute chart. So yeah, the Dow's down 742 points, 2.2%. The Nasdaq's down 224 points, 1.7%, and S&P index is down 1.9. I featured Ollie's the other day, and we bought it. So it's down. It's only down 18 cents. It was down. It was down to 39.34. We bought it. I think it was 42.60, something like that. But that's all right. I mean, it wasn't a big position. I think it was 50 shares in one account. So I'm not worried that if you're going to invest in anything, be prepared to hold it for at least 2 years, I'd say. But their businesses are probably not slow. There is talk that the United States might cut off key technology to Russia. Exxon, I got out. This was who would have known? Now Exxon's down 10 cents. See, Exxon today has had a $3 swing almost. I got out of Fubu. Oh no, I'm sorry. I got out of Exxon at $62, and a couple months ago, and got into Fubu at 15. Now Exxon is 70 some, and Fubu's 6 and change. So.
There is another vendor on the globe. Bitcoin, Jim, a lot of discussion.
Oh wow! See, some things are bouncing. Fubu is $7.30 now, and it was down 6.22.
January low, which would be around 32.8. We got to queue up Mike Novogratz right now. I own Ethereum. I sold a lot of it. That's probably one of the smarter things I did other than marrying Lisa. What about that rich meal you were getting? I bought that farm with that Bitcoin. I know you did. I got to tell you, Michael Semblist, I know, is Radical Thoughts. He's Dave Morgan Senior strategist. He did a multi-factor piece. He said this is not a store value. You know what is a store value? What Dr. Bristow is saying. Gold. David, have you seen gold? I have.
Gold. Let's see what gold GLD.
The GDX, the gold miners too. That's actually doing pretty well. It's really
GDX.
They're not making a lot more gold, but one of the things that Gary Gensler.
Let's look at a daily chart.
They're making a lot of Ethereum, and we don't know. Right.
Yeah.
We don't know how much Dogecoin is. Dogecoin.
Yeah, I'm not keeping track of that. I think it is. But
we're not voting gasoline here. Pioneer could turn on the jets with gasoline. I was going to say, how much of this changes the capital return model of so many of these?
So, we're getting a little bit of buying in a couple, but we still got the Nasdaq.
So I think the drilling stocks are actually really good here. But I don't like the oils. I think you sell the oils. You did have,
Jim Cramer's saying sell the oils.
That would imply $4 average gasoline in the near term.
Why are you saying sell the oils? Because there's not a lot. There'd be less demand as oil goes higher.
Oh, okay.
And by the way, it's natural gas that's That's trouble. Natural gas, not our natural gas. We're not doing 12 BCF per day.
Well, natural gas prices in Europe are hitting
30% today.
Are up enormously.
Our natural gas prices are between 4 and 5. And by the way, we're in shoulder month. But it ain't that cold, partner.
Your point is that energy spikes, supply shocks in energy are disinflationary.
Yeah, well, yes, and we are an energy. We're actually. Our president is kind of not as cool on energy as I am. We're an energy-rich country. Okay. We have just a remarkable amount of natural gas.
Exactly. There's no shortage, but yet we're paying more.
If we had more, we could export far more. We could get many more.
We could export more.
Right. And we haven't really moved our BCF that much, despite the fact that demand is very high. And we're about to go into months where you don't sell it. We even have a lot of propane.
Yeah, I know.
But we're in good shape.
So does it crush the ESG thesis at large? Or does it inflate it because of what Europe is looking for alternatives now?
Boy, that is a great question. I have American Electric Power on tonight. All their
a lot of the companies, a lot of the countries in Europe, they depend on Russian natural gas, which the pipeline goes through the Ukraine.
Killed it. So we have been there are states that have killed ESG projects, and American Electric Power makes great money anyway.
The transition is underway. The question is how long it is going to take and whether renewables can, as quickly as we would hope, fill the gaps. And that's where you're going to find your major energy producers sort of arguing one thing that may be different.
827. I wouldn't be surprised. Like I said, I wouldn't be surprised. At one time we would be down 1100.
Yeah,
you're going to have margin calls.
Spend time on this issue, and government plays such an important role here, and there may be expectations on the part of government that are a bit further than what actually can be accomplished. Well, it's not as though we aren't going to have a lot more electric cars on the road. Of course we are. We are likely going to have more wind power, more solar power, although wind has its own issues. Got to get transmission.
Pat, were you aware that you can actually buy precious metals with digital currency while the banks are now balking at trading for cash?
The Germans aren't building new nuclear.
No, I didn't know that. You can buy gold or silver.
Aggressively nuclear. Because the Green
Party. I just started buying. I did have a little bit. But I've been throwing I've been doing some scrapping and throwing some money at Ethereum, and with wanting to dollar cost average over the next year. And then I'm just going to basically, if I make a little bit of money in it, I might pull. Basically, I want to try to acquire somewhere because those move sometimes 5-10%. In a day. So if I can basically, for example, acquire 2,500 over the next year, and let's say I make I may pull the $1,000 and then just keep the rest and say, hey, let's see where it's at in 7 to 10 years.
Who knew the wind would kind of calm down in the North Sea, but it did.
Well, I just think that they made a series of
Disney down 377.
But the Greens, I think, would say, you know what? And this is what I think is sotto voce, David. The Greens are saying, good. Now people will use them less. Now there'll be even more of a rush to buy. Maybe they even.
Bitcoin's down 9% today, and Ethereum's down 12.38%. I've been dollar cost averaging like $25 a year, $50 there. I'm keeping track in my notebook. Here.
Natural gas.
They recognize Elon Musk in Europe,
and I'm doing that with. Found money.
I'm told, by the way, that propane inventories are the lowest in 5 years.
But I'm saying we have massive amount of
prices are at 7-year highs.
Okay, good. Sell propane because you know what? The fire department came to my place on Friday, so you can't use propane in this country in our restaurants.
The roadside, street side dining is what you mean.
You got to switch to electric, of which nobody has 220 power. Kind of get ready.
The power of New York City to hound businesses is just knows no end.
They come in on
knows no end.
Say, listen, everything you put up because of de Blasio is coming down.
You mentioned Tesla, Jim, which did hit a 6-month low. Some reports out of Reuters that they're planning a new Shanghai plant that would
6-month low.
China capacity 2x, but it bounced right off of 700.
I am not worried about that stock one bit. I think that Tesla is doing everything right, except for picking fights with all sorts of governments, with our all sorts of agencies. Speak softly and just sell a lot of cars.
Yeah, but he's a promoter too, and that's part of
He's an operator and a promoter.
Yes,
Very
he's
rare.
He's both.
Delightful.
And listen,
But he got the
his
man in
promotional
here,
skills are very.
Ollie's is actually up now, 2
We're raising enough
cents.
money to actually get him to a point where he gets to free cash flow positive. So
Right.
you can't discount them. You can't just
who
stop
owns
that.
big position in them?
Kathy Wood.
Max Yerger's put next.
All right, guys. Hey, I do
Max,
appreciate
yeah.
who did stop by. We're at the 1 hour mark. I'm going to cut it here, only because we only have a couple people here watching, and I got some things I need to do, and I need to run some errands. But Arthur, thanks for hanging out and chatting with me. I do greatly appreciate it. If you guys are checking this out on the replay, you can subscribe to me, Money Me. I don't do these lives too much, honestly. Trying to get more people to, we got like 340 subscribers right now. So trying to get more people to subscribe to the channel and grow the channel. I am a reseller, and I trade stocks, options, been in business and stuff, and like to talk about things money. So I appreciate the people that did support me today. Come by, and if you guys can give me thumbs up and comment below, and I'll see you again, and stay safe out there.